It's back, and it's back with a vengeance. Well, I shouldn't say it's back. It never went away. This virus is not going to go away. It's going to be cyclical. It's going to keep coming back. Eventually, hopefully, we'll have a vaccine for rational people. You anti-vaxxers, you don't need a vaccine. You can just, I don't know, find a government conspiracy that fits your current mood and go with that. And as far as some sort of cure for people who do develop it, maybe we'll have that eventually. But right now, if you've been watching the reports coming out from various reporting agencies, not from anything to do with Trump or the government of the United States, forget that. That is just layer upon layer of bullshit. I'm talking about the numbers put together by the New York Times or NBC or the news reporting agencies, you know, the ones that this orange ape calls the fake news. But if you've been following that, you know that we are still in the middle of this pandemic and will be for some time. And as long as we continue to have leadership on the national and state level who continue to tell us that, hey, it's okay, don't worry about a mask, don't worry about going to a club, don't worry about going to a bar or the beach or indoor events, don't worry about it, everything is okay. We're going to continue to have people get sick and people die and people die and more people die. Tens of thousands more people die. This is just madness. But then just about everything is right now, right? Virginia the state of Virginia has decided to create the first pandemic workplace safety mandates in the nation because the Orange Apes labor agency is doing nothing. It's sitting on the sidelines. The governor's office in Virginia said the rules were prompted in large part by the lack of enforcement by the federal agency whose job it is to uphold workplace safety. You know, the Occupational Safety and Health Administration, one of those organizations that filthy swine like Rush Limbaugh and the rest of his ilk have been screaming about for years that it was just, unnecessary bureaucracies and so on and so forth. Jesus, I'll be glad when Limbaugh departs this earthly coil. I'm sorry. No, I'm not sorry. I will. He's been spreading poison and lies and deception for 35 years. Go away, Rush. Anyway, as reported by the Post, Washington Post, Virginia took a big step on Wednesday toward ushering in a whole new set of COVID-19 era safety rules that companies in that state would be forced to implement to protect workers from infection. I mean, that's the thing about capitalism. Unless you have government intervention with rules and regulations about how these capitalist sons of bitches operate, then the workers are constantly at risk, whether it is at risk for disease or low wages or no health insurance, or just on and on. Workplace safety. Without government intervention, predatory capitalism doesn't give a shit. It just doesn't care. Why should it? There is a vast pool of labor in the United States just waiting to go to work for $7, $8, $9, $10 an hour. So what is the incentive to capitalism to make workplace safety part of the workplace? There is none. There is none. But what Virginia is doing is a first in the country, and it may have a potential way forward for other states because the Orange Apes administration is doing nothing, absolutely nothing, except making the situation worse. Now, here's the story. According to the Post, Virginia's 14-member Health and Safety Board voted 9-3. You got to wonder about these three assholes. Voted 9-3 to agree to create workplace safety rules that would continue. And they agreed that they would continue to work on this idea and try to finalize some sort of rules in the coming days. Now, the emergency temporary standard was put together in Virginia's Department of Labor and Industry under directions from the governor, Ralph Northam, a Democrat, in late May. The vote was 9-3, and 2 members of the panel abstained. Those 2 members ought to be thrown off the panel. You sons of bitches are so cowardly. You two, you wouldn't vote one way or the other. You won't vote for workplace safety. You won't vote against workplace safety like these 3 morons did. How do you abstain? Why are you on the panel? Good God. Anyway, the governor's office, Northam's office, said that the rules have become necessary in large part because of total lack of enforcement from OSHA regarding workplace safety. This is the era of the orange ape. No rule, no bureaucracy is going to be honored. No rule is going to be enforced. And I got a piece by, I think it's my good friend Tom Hartman. Let me see if I can find it here. Oh, yeah. Hartman has a piece about why Trump appears to be so enthusiastic about Americans dying. I'll get to that a little bit later tonight, I hope. But anyway, OSHA has issued 1 citation in response to more than 4,000 coronavirus-related complaints. 1 out of 4,000. I mean, you give that a few seconds thought and then move on, because it'll drive you crazy like it almost did drive me crazy. But that is a record, a horrible record, that workplace advocates and former OSHA officials in recent weeks have said it's clear indication of neglect at OSHA, neglect of what it is mandated by Congress to do. But that, see, I shouldn't get all twisted up here and start talking loudly, because in the era of the orange ape, Donald Trump, nothing gets done. Nothing is put in place to protect worker safety. I mean, nothing is put in place, period. Nothing is enforced, period. Everything is being dismantled and torn apart. David Michaels, who is a former OSHA head who served during the Obama administration, said this, quote, "Millions of workers are terrified of going into jobs every day where they are not adequately protected from the coronavirus." He added, quote, "Thousands of workers have complained to OSHA, and OSHA has told them they're on their own. They're on their own." So state governments are stepping into the void created by the orange ape and his destruction of the guardrails for predatory capitalism. Anyway, the draft of the idea in Virginia that this board will either approve or amend requires that employers develop policies for workers dealing with coronavirus-like symptoms. And you know what they are: fever, sore throat, gut trouble, tiredness, the standard warning signs that the coronavirus may be trying to make you ill. And the rule, the standard that the board will either approve or amend, also prohibits those workers suspected of having the virus from showing up at work. That makes sense, doesn't it? And they should be paid. Predatory capitalism should pay them while they're sick. The new rules, according to the Washington Post, would force companies to notify workers of possible exposure to an infected coworker within 24 hours of the company finding out that that worker is sick. And the rules would also mandate that the companies put in place physical distancing as well as sanitation, disinfection, and hand washing procedures. I mean, the right-wingers are always screaming about, well, regulation. Well, if these predatory sons of bitches would just use decency, would just use, I don't want to say common sense because it's not common among these thugs, but if they would use a little brain power, just a bit, about how to protect workers, how to keep things as under control as possible, then there wouldn't be any need for government mandates, state or federal. But that's not how the world works. Now, the regulations that are being put together by Virginia are getting praise from unions and labor advocates and workers themselves. But, are you ready? The regulations are also getting sharp opposition from many businesses and industry groups. And those business and industry groups say the new regulations are unnecessary in the face of existing guidelines from the state and federal agencies such as OSHA. Oh, God damn. I mean, this... Now, right now, the guidelines are recommendations. So there are fewer legal ramifications than enforceable standards have. The guidelines. By contrast, what the state of Virginia officials are saying is that the state's inspectors will police the new regulations under penalties of up to $124,000 and the threat of closure in severe cases. That's right. That's the way it should be. If you are a capitalist, if you are running a company, and these rules should be global, so that these predatory sons of bitches can't escape. They can't go from state to state or country to country and exploit workers. I don't care if the worker is in Vietnam or the southern United States or Bangladesh or Kazakhstan. It doesn't make any difference. A worker is a worker. Good Lord.
Hi, Truth Seekers. Mike Malloy here. As you know, we've switched formats and are now broadcast exclusively on the Progressive Voices Network. So that means you get fewer program interruptions, no corporate commercials, and lots of profanity. But our format change also means some of our radio listeners no longer hear the program. It's been a while since I mentioned our podcasts, so you may have forgotten that there is a way to listen to this program anytime you need a good dose of screaming. Visit MikeMalloy.com and subscribe to our podcast. You have your choice. You can listen to the ranting with the audio podcast or listen and watch me lose control with a video podcast subscription. As a podcast subscriber, you can download the program to your mobile device and take me with you wherever you go. And if you have a friend who needs a dose of truth-seeking, you can give a gift subscription as well. That's MikeMalloy.com. And never miss a minute of the uncensored fun and frivolity.